All right, thank you. Thank you for that introduction. And good morning to everyone. I'm Colonel Stan Reed, Senior Assistant Commandant at U.S. Army Signal School. On behalf of our Commandant, Colonel Paul Howard, I would like to say welcome to this panel and thank you for coming to listen to how we're building a data curriculum in the Signal School. Before we start, I'm going to just introduce you to the panel. Starting to my left, your right, Mr. Rob Collins, the Officer Division Chief of Office Chief of Signal. Chief James Henry, the Senior Warrant and Signal Leader, Development College. Have Major Joe Contaco, the FA 26 Bravo Division Chief, Signal Leader, Development College, and Mr. Michael Berry, Trained Developer at the Signal Leader Development College as well. Over the next 20 to 25 minutes, we're going to cover three different areas. We're going to talk about what we've done so far in respects to regulations, critical task, site selection board, also what we're currently doing right now in the schoolhouse with the training and instruction from a 255 Alpha stance as well as a 26 Bravo. And then we'll cover final things that we're going to do in the future with future collaboration efforts, HRC, as well as some of our other partners. With that said, we're going to start off the panel with Mr. Berry, our trained developer. He'll talk about the critical task site selection board as well as some things we're doing with the regulations, and we'll be followed up by Mr. Collins, who will take it from there. All right, over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. So the Signal School conducted a critical task site selection board from 6 to 10 June here at the Signal School. That board consisted of 6 board members. They were tasked to modify, retain, or delete the current task list, and also add any new task requirements for that MOS or that AOC in Operational Army. That board, which was FA 26 Bravo, which was Information Systems Engineers, they identified 18 tasks to be put on the individual critical task board. Also, that board was tasked to identify whether those tasks would be trained operationally, institutionally, or self-development. The majority of tasks were selected to be trained institutionally here at the Signal School. Also, we just conducted a 26 Alpha board that was conducted from 1 to 12 August via Teams virtually. That board consisted of 7 members, okay, and they were tasked to do the same thing as the 26 Bravos, and they identified 28 individual critical tasks to be trained for the 26 Alphas. Now, once the board has been completed, what we do then, we staff the board list or the packet locally and for concurrences. If there are any non-concurrences, they are adjudicated prior to the board packet going to the Commandant for approval. Once the board packet goes to the Commandant for approval, then that's when our design and our development phase begin. And that is the CTSSB process that we conduct here at the Signal School. With that said, I will turn it over to Mr. Rob Collins.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Again, my name is Mr. Robert Collins. I'm the Chief of the Officer Division for the Office Chief of Signal. For those of you that are not familiar with the Office Chief of Signal, we are responsible for the strategic human resource planning for the Signal Regiment. So we oversee and develop the career management for all the cohorts, officers, 25 Alpha, functional area officers, 26s, the warrant officers, all 4 255 series MOSs, as well as the enlisted divisions and all the enlisted MOSs there. One of the main things that I'll talk to you about today is the update that we just recently published to 600-3, which is the Officer Professional Development Manual. And so for us, within the Signal chapter and the Network Information Engineering chapter, which covers the functional area officers, both of those sections had not been updated in quite some time. And so we undertook an effort to include HRC, ForceCom, NetCom, as well as subject matter experts within the Cyber Center of Excellence to go back and look at how do we need to now update that information to better prepare signal officers and warrant officers as they continue down their career path. So one of the first things we did was, and you'll hear more about this throughout this panel, is we submitted a military occupational change specialty packet. And basically what that means is we made a change to our MOSs. We made two significant changes to to the functional area 26 Bravo and the 255 Alpha. And one thing that you haven't heard much about, probably didn't hear much about it during the keynote addresses, was what the Army is doing in terms of getting into the data game. So data engineering, data analytics are also big efforts that are going on right now in the Army. And one of the gaps that was identified within the Army workforce is who does the data engineering. So the Signal Corps has basically stepped forward and says, we got it. So we're going to take ownership of the data engineering. And so our data engineers of the future for the Army will be the 26 Bravo and the 255 Alpha warrant officer. So they are going to slowly transition from just managing the servers in the back and actually be out front and doing some of that data engineering, making sure that the data is cleaned, it's organized, it's accessible, and most importantly, is secure, and it can be transported and visualized so that the commander can make the right decisions. So we submitted this packet. In November of last year, it was approved. So effective 1 October 2023, the 26 Bravos will be known as Data Systems Engineer, and the 255 Alpha will be known as the Data Operations Warrant Officer. So those are two significant changes that you'll see in the new 600-3, which was just recently published last week, dated 8 August. You'll be able to see that on the 600-3 Smart Book located on the Mill Suite page. It has all the updates there, identifying what the new duty description will be and what their functions will be in the future. In addition to that, one of the things we did was we did a crosswalk with all the functions of all of our officer and warrant officer MOSs with the knowledge, skills, behaviors, and abilities that are listed within the Defense Cyber Workforce Framework. So when you go through the 600-3 now on the officer side, you will see where we have identified the specific work role and the DCWF code associated with the functions that each of those officers and warrant officers do. So for each MOS, there's about 5 to 6 different work roles that we've done a crosswalk to. We did that for a couple of reasons. One, we did it to make sure that we're speaking the same language as our sister services, because this is a Department of Defense document that we're linking to. The second thing is that it gets us more in line with what we want to do in the future when it comes to 8140. The Signal Corps has been very adamant about using 8570. We're going to continue to use that, but we're also going to shift more towards the flexibility that 8140 offers us in being able to train our officers both within the schoolhouse and using commercial resources as well. You'll have the flexibility to do both. The third thing is that by identifying which work role we're actually tied to, now it gives us more leverage to get the resources that we need to train those topics and to train those skills in the schoolhouse. Some of you are familiar now with the effort that's going on to identify DCWF work roles with actual TDA and MTO positions. And so as that effort goes on, we too provide some input to organizations to make sure that they're utilizing the right work roles for those MOSs, for those individuals within their organizations. And then third, we updated our career maps. So for all the young officers in here, when you go into 600-3 now, you'll see a career map that's more aesthetically pleasing, if you will, than what the previous one was. It's a little bit cleaner in terms of identifying what your key developmental jobs are, what your broadening assignments are. It's updated to take into account new positions that are within Army Futures Command, within Network CFT, as well as your traditional company command, battalion S6, brigade S6, and other jobs of that nature. We also identify credentialing opportunities. So recommendations, not requirements, but recommendations for certifications based off of where you are in your career field, where you are in your career timeline, what jobs you want to prepare for in the future. In terms of the jobs that are listed there, it is not an all-encompassing list. The larger list you'll be able to find in 61121. That too has been updated, where you'll see most of the all of the organizations in general terms at the division level, corps level, both tactically, operational, strategic. You'll be able to see what positions by rank are located there, and you'll be able to see what those jobs are. So as young officers and warrant officers continue to prepare themselves and to develop their career paths down the road, we have provided you what we think is a much better roadmap today than what you might have seen a week ago in being able to develop your career.
All right. So what you just heard from Mr. Berry as well as Mr. Collins was not just minute stuff. This is huge leaps and bounds that we've taken already to get to where we really need to do when we start talking about the data and the signal school and ensuring that training and education takes place. So the Quail-TAS Site Selection Board it's a huge effort. I mean, we query personnel from the field as well as bringing others in to kind of sit there and kind of go through exactly what does it take kind of shape. And then what Mr. Collins talked about with the actual updates, 600S3, some of the things that we're doing, that takes a lot. It's a monumental effort to try to make sure we have it right. And I think that's a great direction that we're going in. So next we'll hear about exactly what we're doing currently now in the schoolhouse with respect to the 255s Alpha as well as the 26 started with Chief Henry and then followed by Major Pataka.
Thanks, sir. Morning, I'm Chief Henry, Technical Director for SLDC. So we heard Mr. Berry mention about the Critical Task Site Selection Board, CTSSB. So the 255 Alphas also had one back in November, so I'll touch on that just real quick. And convening that board and having products come out of that board, they're just about wrapping up. So part of that board requirements that the leadership came in and we were focused on, or had us focused on at that time, was cloud and data. So the cloud and data concept, this is where the Army's going. This is the Army's new mission. As we heard General Eubanks mention a little while ago, Army Unified Network. So this is what we leveraged as a huge resource as we conducted that board back in November, going forward for the 255 Alphas basic course and 255 Alpha Warrant Officer advanced course. So moving on to what Mr. Collins just mentioned, the MOS change. MOS changed to Data Operations Warrant Officer. So hence, all of it starting to come together and you start to see it real time. So this is where we're at now in the schoolhouse. So for the basic course, coming out of that CTSSB, we've already leaned forward and we're conducting the training for the data level and as well as the cloud. So we're focused on the data within the basic courses, introducing them to the fundamentals, the understanding, how we can use it, what it's all about, how we can leverage it, and what does it look like. All right, so some of these students are coming in without that historical knowledge and background. So we have to introduce them at the basic course to that understanding. And moving on to that, in conjunction with that, the cloud. We're bringing the cloud on top of that as another layer. So as that process is taking place, how are we going to leverage our cloud assets going forward? So we use that within the basic also understanding of how we're going to use the cloud out there, what we're going to do with it in conjunction with our data efforts going forward. So within the advanced course, so the advanced course comes in, they come in with that knowledge. Some have missed that data opportunity coming in through the basic course because it's been long since they've been there. So at the start of this course, you'll be reintroduced to what that data is all about, as well as the cloud concepts. So touch on that just generally, then we move on, then we accelerate to the next level, which is taking them to a more of a managerial function of the data and analysis. So we dive further into that, take it to another level. With that, how do we secure it as well? So we touch on that security aspect, the security part of it, storage, and using that Azure. So we're using a lot of Azure as the students come through here, and that is making a lot of money for us going forward, leaving the schoolhouse, and to the commanders that are receiving the students graduating the advanced course as well as the basic course. So without a doubt, in conjunction with the Army's Unified Network Plan, we are definitely moving forward, trying to get after our mission, our new direction and guidance, and get after it. The last piece I'll add in here real quick is that coming through the advanced course and the basic course, we have a lot of students that have continued to build on the certification process on the Azure level. They're coming through and they're knocking them out. So the training is being conducted definitely as designed. We're continuing to move forward as we continue to get the final signature on our CTSSB for the new curriculum, the updated curriculum. But for right now, the students coming through the advanced course and the basic courses are well postured to go forward to those different directions and to those individual units and organizations. Now, and the absolute last piece I'll mention is how are we going to get the commanders and those leaders, once they get down there to the units, after they've been trained, to understand how to better utilize and interoperate with the new data that's out there as they understand it. So that seems to be a small challenge that we're continuing to coach and mentor and kind of give those guys directions on how to get after it and try to interpret it and ensure that if they have any questions, issues, or concerns, this is how we're going to make it forward. This is how we're going to do it. Perfect. That's all I have.
Good morning. I'm Major Joel Katanko, and I'm currently the Functional Area Division Chief within the Signal Leader Development College. So one of the courses that falls underneath the FAD is the 26 Bravo course. I myself am a recent graduate of the 26 Bravo course. So, as mentioned by Mr. Collins already, the 26 Bravo course is transitioning from Information Systems Engineer to Data Systems Engineer, with the effective date of the transition being fiscal year 24, so October of 2023. So, leaning forward, while still maintaining the integrity of the information systems mission that 26 Bravos have, the course has started to incorporate new curriculum. So specifically, the course has begun teaching Amazon Web Services, including Cloud Practitioner and Architect Associate. So within those courses, students are learning fundamental elements about designing resilient, high-performing, secure, cost-effective cloud architectures. As of right now, approximately 15% of the students that have gone through the course in the last year have gone on to achieve some level of AWS certification. So in addition to AWS, and already related to the information systems mission, the 26 Bravo course introduces students to a number of other core data competencies necessary for building a strong technical foundation. So these include approximately 200 hours of Cisco networking, 24 hours of Linux instruction, 60 hours of storage and virtualization, and approximately 40 hours of SQL server and database training. So apart from the curriculum itself, the course has also begun or continued to introduce leader professional development from senior leaders across the Army as well as industry professionals as it pertains to data, to give students a better understanding of how data is already being pushed across the Army. And so apart from those, students that report to the course early are encouraged to attend a 2-day data literacy 101 course developed by the Center for Data Analysis and Statistics in order to give them a baseline for what data actually is. So when they go into the course, they do it with their eyes open, knowing how they can apply the information systems and data engineering concepts they're learning in the schoolhouse to their next job. So with that, sir, I'll hand it back over to you.
All right, thanks. So, I mean, what you hear is there's nothing passive in our approach. We're actively moving out right now as far as getting some of those things done with respect to exactly classroom instruction. Building a data curriculum is something you got to have the right SMEs in place. Even though we're still looking to bring more personnel in, we have some subject matter experts right now that's teaching for those levels that you just heard about in the 255 and 26. Next, we'll transition over to discussing future efforts, starting with Mr. Berry, and then we're going to wrap it up with Mr. Collins. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. So where are we at, and what are we planning on doing in the future? So right now, as you heard Chief Henry and Major Katanko say, that we have already implemented some of the basic data and cloud training throughout the schoolhouse and a lot of our officer courses. We are now developing some of the curriculum, and we hope to have a 40% solution by fourth quarter FY23, a 70% solution by third quarter FY24, and fully implement by third quarter FY25. With that said, this will be a continuous process as we update the curriculum annually, okay, and also as the Army formalize its data requirements. With that said, sir, I'll turn it to Mr. Collins.
So, as many of you know, if you've ever worked in the TRADOC organization, sometimes it takes a long time for some of these changes to take place. So some of you are probably wondering, what are we going to continue to do in the meantime to build that workforce? So one of the things that we do in the OCOS as well is that we work with a lot of organizations outside of the schoolhouse to get additional resources, whether it be people or equipment, to support the training that's being done in the schoolhouse. And so the crown jewel effort that we're working on right now is a partnership with Army Futures Command. And a part of that partnership is that we will handle the personnel proponency for them. So in other words, as individuals go through their cohort, whether it be through the software factory or through Artificial Intelligence Integration Center, we are offering those soldiers the opportunity to transfer into the Signal Corps as a Functional Area 26 or a 255 Alpha Warrant Officer. We did that for a couple of reasons. One, it gives us the opportunity to surge that extra advanced level expertise into our ranks quickly. It will allow them, those particular individuals, the opportunity to say, hey, I want to continue to do this kind of stuff throughout my Army career. I don't want to go back driving a tank. I don't want to go back and pump fuel. I want to do this stuff for a living as long as I'm wearing a uniform. So now we give you the opportunity to do just that. The NCOs and enlisted personnel that are in that program will be given the opportunity to submit warrant officer packets or be able to submit an OCS packet if they meet the requirements to become an officer. At that point, if they do decide to become an officer, we will have the ability to assure them a spot in Functional Area 26 once they come in through their basic branch and then come back into the Signal Corps to work in the data analytics realm. Each of those individuals, not only will they have this special advanced level expertise in data engineering and machine learning, artificial intelligence, they will also have some skills in software development. So that is another area that we will be dabbling into here in the future as the Signal Corps continues to evolve in order to support the unified network. The second thing that we're doing, in addition to this partnership with Army Futures Command, is that we have a direct commission program. So for the last year, we've had 2 boards where we offered civilians the opportunity to come into the Army through a process where they are able to earn their commission based off of their education, training, and perhaps even prior military experience if they have that. And they're able to come directly into the Signal Corps, depending on the amount of years that they have education-wise, training-wise, or prior military service may depend what their rank will be. We've had 6 individuals selected so far. We're at the finish line with 3 to be commissioned here within the next 3 months. They'll be the first signal officers to be direct commissioned here soon. One of them has extensive background in data analytics, and so we expect to have that individual here in the schoolhouse to assist us with the continuous development of our curriculum and assist in doing some of the training there as well. And the third thing that we're looking at doing is for all the signal officers in the room that are interested in going this route, we're looking at reestablishing a direct transfer option for signal officers that want to go Functional Area 26. So this was an effort that was done a few years back as a result of trying to re-strengthen our Functional Area 26 workforce after a large number of them jumped over to the cyber branch. And so we offered the opportunity for signal officers already within the Corps to transition over to Functional Area 26 and continue down that career path. So now we're looking at refining some of those initial guidelines and policies that we had in place, and we expect to institute that here hopefully by the end of this calendar year. But this will also offer those signal officers that have that education in data engineering or the interest in data analytics to jump over into that career field as well. And there's actually a 4th option. The 4th thing we're looking at doing now, as OCOS, one of the things we do is recruiting, not just on the civilian side, but we do recruiting for ROTC. So we do all of the accessions for cadets that come out of ROTC and West Point. And so we're developing a short functional area transfer program that would allow us to recruit and assess off cadets coming straight out of West Point, coming out of ROTC that already have degrees in data engineering, data analytics, cloud technologies, any other emerging technologies such as software-defined networking, 5G architecture, etc. We're offering them the opportunity to come to the Signal Corps directly after they get commissioned. So when they get commissioned, they would go through their basic branch, which may not necessarily be signal. It may be infantry, armor, some of the other branches. But once they finish, they will automatically be enrolled within the functional area 26. And then they'll be able to continue down that pathway of network engineering, data engineering, cybersecurity specialist. So we're continuing to look at different avenues where we can bring in that talent and manage that talent effectively and ensure that we're able to retain that talent. And I know some of you are probably saying, well, how are you going to retain them? Because let's be real. We're not going to be able to compete with commercial industry when it comes to the financial side of things. We know that, right? So what are some other things that we're looking at doing? Number one, we're looking at assignments choices. So we work with HRC a lot to look at where can we put individuals to best utilize this talent. So HRC deals with the faces, we deal with the spaces. So while they assist officers in making sure that they're able to go to the right career field, to the right job to help progress in their career and take advantage of the talents that they have, our job is to make sure there's a spot for them to go to. And so part of that is that we are in discussions with Army Cyber Command, with their Technical Warfare Center, to look at opportunities to place some of these new data engineers within that organization, where they will be able to do data analytics in support of cyberspace operations. The second option is to work with NetCom and looking for positions within their data science directorate, which have about 4 or 5 different organizations across CONUS, where they do data analytics and data support in support of DODN operations. The third piece is where do we want to put these new signal officers and warrant officers within the operational force. So for us, we're looking at the multi-domain task force that are standing up, the 3 that are within one's in CONUS specific and Europe, and then we're looking at core headquarters within FORCECOM. Because we feel as we talked about before in the Unified Network Plan and moving complexity up from the brigades up to a higher echelon, the core and divisions is where we see these future data engineers being able to go and to be able to help manage those operations in support of all the organizations under them. So between Army Cyber, NetCom, and FORCECOM, we think we have a pretty good plan as far as being able to identify where these officers of the future will be able to go and continue to help evolve the signal corps in the realm of data.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, over the last, 25, 30 minutes, we inundated you with a lot of information. I hope you got a lot more clarity and understanding as far as what we're doing. Right now, it's time for Q&A. I'm going to open up to the floor for any questions for the star-studded panel. Just make sure they can take care of you. All right, I see you right here, gentleman right here. Yeah, you with the bow tie, right. Well, make sure you get the next one. Don't worry about it. All right. I got you. No, great. Thanks. It's definitely, one second, Rob, a collaborative effort as we see it, not just, from an engineering aspect, but also to work with those actual ORSA personnel. So, yeah, Rob, here.
Hey, Trey, thanks for the comment. So one of the things that we've been involved with recently is a operational planning team with the Mission Command Mission Command Center of Excellence, where they are developing a data decision-driven ConOps. And within that ConOps, there are some courses of action on how you want to restructure within an organization. And part of the conversation we've had is just that, pairing these new 26 Bravo data engineers and 255 Alpha warrant officers with those functional area 49 officers. In discussions that we've had with the functional area 49, are there any 49s in here? Okay, so they don't want to have anything to do with data engineering. They flat out said we don't want to do the technical stuff. We need somebody else to do the technical stuff. So that's where we come in and fill that gap. So one of the things that we are coordinating with Mission Command to put in that ConOps is the possibility of adding additional positions, pairing them with that ORSA so that way they can do the data engineering piece. We had an operational planning team about a year ago where we too looked at force structure across the board. And so as the rest of the Army goes through their Army 2030, we're looking for opportunities to put that plug in about combining either our 26 Bravos or our 255 Alphas with those functional Air 49s. To date, USERPAC, USERA, and Army North, in their latest force design updates, did submit a request to at least add a 255 Alpha with their 49. So we saw that as a win for us to get these individuals into those locations. So we think it's starting that people are getting the word on what we're doing, and it's catching on as they restructure their forces.
Next question. All right. Okay.
Those are all great comments. And so I will tell you, one of the things that we are challenged with in the schoolhouse is that in order to stay up to date, you got to build the plane while you're flying it. And so for us, what we want to make sure we do is that, okay, let's start getting our soldiers trained on these capabilities that we know are coming. Now, are we ahead of that? Yes, we are, because there are capabilities that are being tested and being fielded and trying to determine what right looks like. I think we have received a lot of observations, and I'll call them observations as opposed to lessons learned from operations that are going on in Europe right now, as well as observations from various exercises that take place in the Pacific, as far as how they're utilizing data and how they're utilizing software development ad hoc at the edge. And what are the things we can take away from that we identify as gaps that we need to continue to incorporate in our training. From a doctrinal standpoint, well, we're going to use what works right now in commercial industry. So how does Wells Fargo do data analytics within their financial institution? How does Amazon use data analytics to do their logistics management? How does Dell, Microsoft, pick an IT company, how do they use data analytics to do predictive analysis on their network to make sure that things are working? So as we utilize such programs as training with industry, for example, where we select officers and NCOs to go to those organizations, part of their job, quite frankly, is to look at what are they doing, take some of those lessons learned and bring it back to us so we can figure out what's the best way to incorporate that within our doctrine. And tying that with the lessons learned that we get from current real-world operations. So it's going to take some time for the warrant officer of the day that understands that server stack to get to that data analyst, data engineer, data scientist, software engineer combobulation that we're working on. So that's where the trade-off part comes in, right? Just got to be a little patient with us, but we're gonna get them there over time.
Next question. All right, sir, in front.
So that's probably a question best to have offline. We can discuss that in another venue.
Nice plug in, though. I got it. All right, gentlemen in the back. All right, yes, please.
So yes. So within our office, Chief of Signal, we have a reserve component and we have a reserve and a National Guard representative. And so there have been several working groups looking at how the Guard and Reserve are looking at adjusting their force structure to account for this new talent and where they need to be. So as we continue to develop our training and understand where Big Army wants to go in terms of data, then we'll continue to take part in those conversations with the Reserve component and National Guard as well.
All right, next question. All right, gentlemen over here. I was waiting on the enlisted question. All right.
For me, right? So the question about training for the enlisted side. So in the long term, yes, there is a plan. We have made the conscious decision not to include the training in the enlisted PME today because, as many of you know, the enlisted MOSs are going through a major convergence effort. And so once the smoke has cleared from that, then we'll start looking at where we want to start incorporating data training and to what degree and what MOS we're looking at. All of them will get some degree of data literacy to at least be able to spell data, right? But then as we start looking more into managing it, the infrastructure piece, that's probably going to fall more into the Bravo realm. When we're looking at the security piece, that's probably going to fall more into the Delta realm.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, because yesterday I visited one of the classes at SCCC, and they kind of had the same kind of question and query as far as exactly, hey, don't forget about us. Same thing in reserve, as Mr. Collins alluded to, the literacy part of it. We want to make sure we cover the force, but there's a certain inherent need when we start talking about the engineering aspect that's coming mostly from our warrants, our 26 Bravo. So, but we're gonna cover it all. All right, next question. Jim. Yes, you are. Say it again, Jim. Workforce for the civilians. This the CP environment. Rob, you want to take that?
So data workforce for the civilians. So for the Signal Regiment, our focus has really been on the data workforce for the green shooter side. However, we are in communication with the IT and cyber career field on the civilian side, formerly CP34. Now it's IT cyber functional management area. And so we have had some conversation with them about looking at how they are upskilling their workforce, what platforms they're using to do training, whether it be virtual training or proctored training, probably done virtually, or being able to contract in and bring those individuals in. But instead of trying to recreate the wheel, we want to look at what other organizations have done to train their individuals. And so since that area of the civilian workforce is basically our cousins, we figured, hey, let's walk this path together. And so as they develop their training strategy and do their work role crosswalk with the Defense Cyber Workforce Framework, our intent is to mirror the exact same process. So that way we're both speaking the same language and we can share some of those resources to help train each other and make sure that we are prepared for more data emerging technologies to come.
As I said, the moderators panel, I knew to put smart people on my panel. Right, go ahead, sir, again. Good. Thank you for that insight from what y'all were doing there. Any other? Mr. Williams. Thanks, Mr. Williams. Yes, sir.
So now we're talking about interoperability, right? So that's your key point. So how do we get interoperability from the point where we're moving at today in conjunction with the Unified Network Plan? So part of that, the concern we have if we go too far too fast is the interoperability still will not happen because the resources required to make that happen is still not there available at that particular organization. So the entire organization have to be on board. We must have the resources to support that interoperability. So we must define what it takes for that particular organization in order to join the joint coalition effort in conjunction with the Unified Network Plan. So how do we get there? So it's just about identifying specifically within those specific organizations what those requirements are going forward. We can lean forward, we can lean left or lean right, but the end of the day, the concern still is if we train them here, or if we have the equipment here, they may not necessarily have that equipment forward of the foxhole. They may not have it. And unfortunately, it is a fact that we have to try to balance that all the time between the curriculum that we're taught from the BCCS service sites, CSIs, to Compo 1, Compo 2, Compo 3, is a fine balance. And that kind of circles around your question, what you're asking today. So it's tough, but we try to get after it the best we can with guidance and direction from our higher organization between the Signal School and in conjunction with also the FORSCOM elements. Does that kind of somewhat get close to your question? Again, it goes back to resources, right? So as we're taught the curriculum throughout the schoolhouse, the latest and greatest on the shelf, actually on the ground over at the FORSCOM, 80 seconds and those thereout, may not necessarily be the same equipment that is being taught on or taught through the Signal School. Those assets have priority. They go on to operational efforts, and we get what we can. Trust me, we try. We want to. However, you got to understand the operational requirements and operational needs. Therefore, the Army supports that motion and that movement and that resource to go where it needs to be going. And therefore, in conjunction, we try to prepare ourselves and build and be postured to receive that. So in the meantime, we're taught by informational purposes, informational reasons, and informational means. We not necessarily have the equipment at the time. Doesn't mean we're not working on it. But we are continually work forward. As Mr. Collins mentioned earlier, sometimes you're building a lot of things in flight. And as, technology moves on and the Army requirements continue to get leveraged and updated, we're continuing to move in that direction as best we can and still maintain a good working and training environment. Chief Gladden? Chief Gladden, hold on one second. So this is CW3 Gladden. He is a 255 Alpha. He is an instructor over at the Signal School in the schoolhouse. So I'll add one more thing to that. So not only are we building in flight, and these are some of the things we have to overcome and work through that we've been doing for quite a while in the schoolhouse, not only the Signal School. I'm pretty sure most schoolhouses are doing similar things. But not only are we building in flight, you know, you got the team out there working on the wings and propellers and, you know, which way we're going. But we're also changing out pilots. You know, we're also changing out the pilots. And instructors are coming through. They're being trained. They're PCSing. They're retiring and so forth. So not only are we building in flight, we're changing out the pilots and co-pilots in flight too as well. So it can be a challenge, but we're getting it done. We're getting it done, no doubt. Sir.
Yes, sir. The convergence. Yes. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah, so higher level education for the 25 Bravo to kind of fit within that realm. That's the discussions are taking place as far as let's get through the convergence piece. Once we do that, then I go back to kind of my earlier comment is that yeah, there's a place for each and every for each cohort, whether it's enlisted, whether it's a different MOS, and we want to make sure that we kind of like answer the mail with that. But there's so much and there's so much legwork that we're doing. We're trying to make sure we get the convergence and going from a master level course once they get to E8, E9. So it kind of trying to total line as far as the understanding that we can get that course as well as understanding what we can do from a whole data perspective. If that kind of answers your question. So we're getting there. Yes, sir. So are you meaning the instruction itself? Um,
Hey, Sergeant Major. So, what's going on right now in the schoolhouse? We have a capstone at the end of the 26 Bravo course, where we try to integrate all the systems and all the mechanisms and all the processes that they've learned throughout. And so we foresee a pretty drastic change in what that capstone looks like as we move forward into the data conversation. Um, we have individual blocks, we have cloud, we have security, we have tactical systems. And so we are looking at integrating those into a practical exercise to test folks' capabilities and their knowledge so that when they do go to a unit that may have a real world mission, right? They have some preparation. But as you say, a lot of that is going to be on the ground. They're going to learn it. Because as we've already been talking about, there's a lot of, when we say data, we mean a lot of different things, and there's a lot of different players involved. And so what we're really trying to do in the schoolhouse is give them a foundation that will make them capable of being versatile when they do hit the ground.
Yeah, I just want to add a little bit more to what Major Katanko said that, when you're looking at that there are opportunities out there to do it, right? We would love to leverage that opportunity. However, when you have students coming through, you have set amount of hours and curriculum that needs to be trained and taught in order to get them graduated and on down to the next organization. So doing that will be ideal. It'll be ideal. But we have to absolutely give them the fundamentals and the foundations as to what they're coming through and how we're, again, building this aircraft in flight. We have X amount of weeks, X amount of hours, X amount of blocks for the curriculum. Not saying it can't be done, going down the road in the future, working with TD and so forth. But that is training development. That is definitely something that we're continuing to look at. But as we continue to refine and adjust to the Army's plan, we have to continue to conduct ourselves accordingly and going forward. Now, it doesn't say it can't be done somewhat offline. In a sense, what we do here institutionally, not necessarily can be carried over 100% across the board. And again, we go back to Compo 1, Compo 2, Compo 3. Compo 2 and Compo 3, those are the concerns. So there's a balance in there that we have to consider all the time, because it's not only Compo 1 that's coming through the schoolhouse through these classes. Compo 2 and Compo 3 also have to get trained. So once we finish and complete what we have to get done with those particular blocks, there's opportunities to do that. So short answer to your question, not at this time, but we always considering doing that.
All right, I'm getting the nod that we got. So I'll take one final question. So our Commandant Colonel Howard is going to make a few comments, and we'll close out then. So, sir.
Paul Howard, the new Chief of Signal and Commandant. So there's a couple things that struck me I just wanted to kind of respond to. So first of all, the question about doctrine, absolutely probably lingering, but there will be a prioritized effort towards getting doctrine online with the efforts that we're making in with what's going on in the schoolhouse, okay, and what's going on out in the field. Somebody mentioned data funding for kind of grassroots things that are going on out in the field. I would tell you that the Army data plan chaired by General Morrison and reporting up to the Undersecretary of the Army is aligning the lessons that we want to learn out of 1st Corps, 18th Airborne Corps, and Army Futures Command, so that we're not all learning the same lessons. And the funding is getting prioritized from them into those grassroots efforts based on what the learning objective is. So I think within ForceCom, there's quite the opportunity to go through that process to get funds aligned to whatever you're trying to learn if you need resources to do it. But they're probably also looking to make sure that that hasn't already been done somewhere else. Okay. The Deputy Commander for TRADOC talked about the backbone of the Army and the NCO Corps. This goes to, are we going to change other courses? Yes, we're going to inculcate the same kind of things. We started 255 Sierra, the 26 Alpha and Bravo, but it's not lost on me that the rest of the Army needs to come online with this. And certainly, I don't want to depend on commercial vendors training us for the rest of my career or your career. I think the NCO Corps certainly needs to own a lot of this stuff, and we've got to inculcate it into the training at the lowest levels and through at Echelon. Civilian training. I just learned about the Quantum Leap stuff a few weeks ago, talking to Mr. Dedham, and I was surprised that the licensing was bought, I believe, for every VA civilian in the Army. So now it's on them to use it. But it is not impossible to get civilians into other training. We have distributed training across CONUS at RSTS sites that they can participate in, and on occasion we can get them into these other courses if they can get to the courses, okay, and if there's a seating availability, even for a module. So, but it takes the supervisors to really work with the civilian population to see how they can best get trained and educated. There's some people out here in this audience that are working grassroots stuff. I would encourage you, if you've got something to add to these courses, don't sit back and be a bystander and just watch. If you have a passion about something and you want to be an adjunct professor for a module, I will work with the school to get you, the curriculum that we're trying to teach, and I'll get you on the platform for a day. If you've got something where you can say, hey, we've been doing this in the field, I've learned something, I have something to contribute, then come help us build the capacity across the entire formation. And then the echelonment, we talked a little bit about the echelonment of the capability. Between, kind of the tactical, the operational force, the tactical versus strategic, stuff like that. I don't think we're going to head that way. But I would tell you that if you've got somebody who has more capacity than others, then seek out these things that Rob was talking about to get them into a posture they can contribute more. Direct commission, get them in OCS, get them into the warrant program, get them into whatever. So we've got one of the direct commissionees is a W-2 to captain. So it's getting them out of the university, it's getting them out of the enlisted force, it's bringing them from warrant to commission side, wherever they can best perform and best contribute and have the passion and the aptitude to do it. Let's be leaders and get them into those programs. Okay. I'll turn it back over to Stan. Thanks. I appreciate you guys.
All right, and that's our time for today. I appreciate all the Q&A. If you, our panel will stand fast here probably another 5 minutes. If you have anything and that you didn't get a chance to ask, then feel free to see us there. All right, thank you.